your pilot for today's short webinar. So you'll notice on the control panel on the left-hand side there is a question and answer box. You are all in listen-only mode right now. We will be getting through the questions. If we can't get to them all, I've already noticed a few coming in, we will make sure that they get addressed in person after this. So why are we here today? Well, today is about SMS, the new frontier of communication delivery. So every day, the US Postal Service delivers 509 million pieces of mail. Now, if you read some of the statistics, they believe that 85 to 90% of those are actually, the first class mail is actually read or looked at. Well, some new facts. Email opened and read are actually down over the last couple of years to about 20%. I'm sure you'll all agree as you open your inbox about how many emails you struggle to get through on a daily basis. However, the important fact here is that 98% of text messages are read. Pretty astounding. Now, 90% of them are read immediately. So for the next 30 minutes, feel free to look at your phone and answer a text message, because we know you can do two things at once. Millennials have bought us something, it's multitasking. The interesting fact that only 7% of US businesses are actually using text messaging today. So I'm here with Brian Ford to explain the future of SMS text messaging and how it applies to the business of communication delivery for utilities, insurance companies, banks, healthcare, as well as many of you service providers that print and mail and communicate for other people. So with that, our agenda, just to quickly cap off, Brian's going to walk through who MessageMedia is. We're going to do a 101 on how MessageMedia and SMS works. We're going to hit some legal stuff just to make sure everybody's okay with, understands implied consent and all the fun stuff. Why it is important to start talking about it, why it is the iceberg in the room for many companies and why they're scared. And then we're going to look at the 5 top SMS to mail apps that communication providers are using. So stay with us for the journey, ask questions, text us, and we'll make sure that you have fun over the next 24 minutes. So, Brian, why don't you take over and explain who MessageMedia is?
Thanks, Adam. Hey, everyone. This is Brian Ford, VP Sales at MessageMedia. MessageMedia was founded 17 years ago in Australia, so I think that's where we got the connection with Adam, as you can tell by his voice. We were founded in Australia, but we've only been in the U.S. for about 6 years. Our key value props in the U.S. and really throughout the world is technology and support. So we are essentially the white glove providers in the messaging industry, very high touch with respect to helping customers implement messaging strategy and optimize the messaging capabilities. In the U.S., primary focus is point solutions within larger software applications like Uluro. So we have many partners, channel partners, things like that in security, for instance, for two-factor authentication and one-time passcodes, government utility platforms for payments and alerting, banking and finance platforms for payments collections, healthcare softwares like EMRs, EHRs for appointment reminders, billing, things like that. So we are essentially, you know, the point solution partner for the big platforms out there that are working with all these various industries. Our partnership with Uluro has really taken off in the last year and a half, and that's just because of the product that Uluro provides, who they provide it for, so their customer base. It's a perfect fit for text messaging.
Okay, so let's just, Brian, why don't you walk us through some facts that are going on in the industry right now?
Yeah, the first one's a biggie, right? 95% of Americans own cell phones, and that's replicatable throughout the world. More and more people, as everybody knows, is getting cell phones. Another key factor under there is the amount of smartphones. So now 75% of that 95% number own smartphones, In 2011, that number was only 35%. So, with the advent of these smartphones, it's a lot easier to multitask, go in and out of review sites and text message and social networks and things like that. Smartphones have more than doubled in the past 5 years. Read rate is the other one that Adam mentioned earlier. So 98% of text messages are read. 90% are read within the first 3 minutes. I mean, that in itself is the big aha with respect to text messaging in almost any forum. The quadrants down below are more about customer success. So, in all these various industries that we work with, the reality is people expect to have text messaging capabilities. So 64% of consumers prefer text messaging over voice as a customer service channel, and 77% of consumers aged 18 to 34 have a positive perception of companies that adopt text messaging. So I mentioned the 18 to 34 demographic, and the reason that demographic is so important, the millennials, if you will, is that they now make up over half of the workforce in the United States, and obviously that number is only growing. So how can we change with the times? You see the picture here. Everybody on this webinar right now has been in a situation, whether it's a restaurant or even a family dinner, where this is the site. Everybody's on their phones. So because of this, what we call the millennial effect, people are obsessed with their phones. And the reality is, again, they can go within, if they have a bad perception of a company, they can go to Facebook, they can go to Yelp, they can go to Google Reviews, whatever it is. They have instant access to make an impact on companies like never before. So, with that obsession, with the people being obsessed with their phones, it's now incumbent on the companies to become obsessed. So the big thing, a decade ago, 2 decades ago, was companies had to be customer focused. Focused was the big buzzword, right? Customer focus. It's not anymore. It's customer obsessed. And how can companies become customer obsessed in an automated fashion? Because any endeavor is going to take new resources and things like that. So how can you automate the sticky engagement necessary to get those good reviews, good ratings with customers, and how can you automate it without spending money on resources and personnel and things like that? So I mean, that's the big key here is making sure that you can, we call it automating the sticky engagement with customers, keeping calls from coming into your call center, making sure that customers pay on time. I mean, all those things are initiatives that companies can now automate, and quite frankly, text messaging is the best channel for that.
So, Brian, just to recap, text messaging proven to increase the customer rating and decrease the cost on customer service. Is that your point?
That is the main point, correct.
So let's just understand a little bit about how text messaging works, because obviously if you're on a phone network and you go to another phone, it's relatively easy. So how does Uluro and MessageMedia go together? So I've put together a little chart for you. So based on the data, whether it's a text, XML, CSV, a file from the web, CRM or Salesforce, obviously it can be passed into Uluro. Uluro has the ability to pass out that data based on predefined rules, and even if you are sending out print files, even if you're sending out emails, Uluro can now take one file and send it out to multiple channels. Very simple and easy. Uluro, through the use of web services, will hand out the messages. It will take the data, it will create the messages and hand them off to MessageMedia. So Brian, take over and explain the rest.
Yeah, and then the one thing I want to point out there, and you and I have talked about it before, Adam, is the beauty of the solution, the way that it's embedded in Uluro, is the customization. It's all done. Everything that you have from a first name, last name basis of a customer or account specific information, all of that stuff is in Uluro. So all you have to do is download the file, Uluro platform customizes all the messaging so you can personalize the messages and make sure that it's accurate with the right account information and all that stuff. It's really a very tight integration, what Uluro did. So once it does get to message media, there's I call it a spider web of things that happen under the covers. And again, our goal is to simplify that noise, if you will, and make it easy on the customers. Once it sort of comes to our gateway, we connect to multiple upstream tier 1 providers. We connect to every single 22 downstream carriers in the U.S. I bet most people didn't know there were 22 carriers in the U.S., but we connect to all of them. And over and above that, we connect to every major country around the globe. So we have a lot of customers that are sending messages from Des Moines, Iowa to Switzerland. Can you get that message from A to B in under 3 seconds? Yes, we can, because we have the connections upstream and downstream. So again, we do all the heavy lifting. Uluro does the heavy lifting with customization. It's really a one-stop shop for getting your messages out.
And of course, if the message is a two-way message, it just flows back the other way and generates a response automatically. So with that, I want to kind of just go through some 101 tutorials that I promised. Obviously, we're looking at the workflow. Now let's talk about what is a shortcode. I mean, a lot of people will hear the words shortcode and long code. So can you kind of hit us up and just explain the two?
Sure. So this is a brief 101 of the products or solutions within business messaging. So a long code is, everybody on this line has a long code, right? Everybody here has a cell phone number. It has a distinct area code with the other 7 digits attached to it. It's a 10-digit number, long codes. Long codes can either be a virtual number that we provision, so a local long code. Let's say you want you're in San Francisco and you want a 415 number to match your existing business. We can provision long codes that are localized so that the messages going out to your customers are localized, right? Makes sense. We can also do it with landlines, so that's another form of a long code. So if you have a number, and we get this a lot with insurance companies and things like that, there's like local nationwide agents, and they want their customers to see the same number that they've been seeing for 10 years when they call in and call out. Easy. We just take that number and we provision it for SMS capabilities, and it's a seamless, customer, feature-rich transaction with the customer. So you can take those landlines and get SMS enabled on them. The one thing with long codes, and this is where sort of compliance and regulations comes into play, is the carriers really don't want large volumes of messages going out over those long code numbers. They're really, for peer-to-peer traffic, me texting Adam, Adam texting me. So there are broadcast limitations. You can't send thousands and thousands of messages a month or a day over those distinct long code numbers. And that's really it. And again, our team can work with you on determining whether or not you want to use long codes or short codes. So short codes are, everybody here has gone to the Bank of America. They do a transaction and it sends them a PIN code. Usually it's through a short code like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is what the carriers sort of separated out as being the recommended channel for high volume application to person messaging. So these short codes, again, great for high volumes. There's 2 types of short codes. Dedicated short code, that essentially means that's a number that you purchased for your company. Isolated traffic, highly secure companies prefer this method. And then there's a shared short code. So MessageMedia, we've provisioned and we've secured a dozen of these short codes, and we let our customers use them for high volume initiatives and things like that. So that's not to get too far into the weeds, but that's really the difference between long codes and short codes. A couple other things that are useful in the messaging world: MMS, which is becoming a very big item in U.S. business messaging. So a couple great examples, like a service tech call. Now consumers are able to actually take a picture of like an appliance or maybe it's a software or something like that that's not connecting right. They're actually able to text that picture of the issue into a short code or into a number and ask the tech support person if they can help them with the issue. Real estate agents are now using it. So for example, you can text house 123 to a short code on a printed sign, and instantly they'll receive MMS messages with pictures of the interior of the house, all the websites containing the listing info, things like that. So MMS, I would say, in the next 3 to 5 years is going to be one of the largest buzz products in the messaging space. 800 enablement, we've gone through that earlier. 800 enablement is just the same as your landline. If you have an existing 800 number that you want to have it SMS enabled, you can do it. It's easy for us to do, or we can provision a new one. So those are the basic sort of messaging options with respect to text messaging.
Okay, so there's also the ability to have landlines and fun stuff, but let's just go into the technical stuff. Let's look at what is the legal implied consent. Can you explain, I have a list of, my clients gave me their cell phone number when they signed up to do business with me. Can I use it?
Yeah, and this, I would say this is in the U.S. especially, because these laws, these regulations, the anxiety, right, that texting causes in the U.S., it just hasn't occurred internationally. So in our parent company in Australia, there just isn't the scare of companies texting consumers. It's just accepted. So here in the States, there are some regulatory bodies, a lot of 3 to 4 letter acronyms that rule the industry, just like every other industry. So again, the beauty is that we take care of it. Our white glove approach with our customers help formulate text policy that will help meet and exceed any industry regulation. So the big thing that companies need to be concerned with is this an existing transaction or an existing account, or is this a new account, purchase, or promotion? And if they can answer those 2 questions, they would fall into 1 or 2 of these categories. If it's new, marketing. If it's existing transaction, it's transactional. And as you can see there, it's the green light. So if a person's given you a registration or they've activated an account, and you have in those T's and C's with that registration that you, ABC Bank, is going to get permission to communicate via electronic means to that person on their account, you're good. Everything's done. If, again, this is a participation outside of the account, that's when you need to, be careful because the TCPA, the MMA, the CTIA, and every other 3 to 4 letter acronym in the industry is looking at this information to make sure that you're following the rules and you're not spamming. And that's really the basis.
Now, the exciting bit, Brian, for a lot of insurance companies and banks here is, and healthcare providers, is people aren't using house phones anymore. So when they do sign up, when they do go to, hey, here's my phone number, they're actually giving you consent. I mean, there's been a number of lawsuits in California and New York to focus on that. So the idea is, taking it to that next level. You've got it, you can use it. Obviously, with the use of Uluro and web portals, there is actually a checkbox to make sure, what's going on, compliance, check a box. But we do recommend that anybody who's using registration, add it to the T's and C's, add a quick little statement into your website terms, add it into your registration terms, add it onto any piece of paper you use for client sign-ups or communication, and just let them know, hey, you will be contacted on this. They can always opt out. Would you agree?
That's it. You said 2 key points there. Number 1, they can opt out. All of these messages will have, basic stop and help responses built into them. So if they don't want them, all they got to say is stop, and you'll have that in the body of the text. And that's really the basis of it. So everything should be taken care of. Again, it's treated as you would a voice call, an email, any other channel of communication, text messaging, as long as it's related to the account. And think about what you're using it for, right? It's appointment reminders, it's billing notifications, it's account alerts. It's all for the benefit of the consumer, and that's the key. Okay, so obviously as we walk through this, we've been on for about 20 minutes. We want to have some, we do have a few questions here that we're going to get to, but let's talk about
the 5 top apps for mailers. Obviously, if you're a utility provider, one of the key places right now where you can, drop your DSO from 20 days to nearly, instantaneous is by text message billing. Obviously, Uluro plugged into payment providers to provide secure billing. Simple, easy, and it can replace paper, it can augment paper, it can go out with paper. But text to pay is something that is becoming very, very fun, and everybody who's on this call should be thinking about, if you send a bill or an invoice, how can I better engage with those millennials that Brian was talking about? Well, the answer is, hit them on their chosen channel. Talk to them in their language, which is text messaging. Give them the chance, to simply pay. So another is, obviously this is, quite important to me, is reminders. I mean, how many times do you see people sending out, a whole piece of mail or an appointment reminder or a notifications? But billing, especially in the insurance and healthcare world, you have a balance due in 3 days. Reply C to confirm. Hey, I want to talk to somebody about it. Why not generate that response? Get them to say, I want to talk to you about it. We already heard that text messaging 5 times higher open rate than emails. But more importantly, instantaneous. So obviously I had my motorcycles insured. I was out for work. I missed a payment. It ended up cheaper for me to just sign up with another insurance company. If I had a simple reminder like this, would have been easy. Now, if you are in the insurance, the healthcare, and you deal with customer checks or customer payments or, things like this, start using Uluro to drive that communication. So in this instance, this is a bank. Notify me, instead of sending me a piece of paper and telling me that I am overdrawn, it could easily just send an instantaneous text message as soon as I go overdrawn to let me know. Add a link in here so I can actually go to my banking site. I can reply. Or some of you on the line will have got this earlier. I obviously didn't send it out to everybody, but I didn't want to send out a couple of hundred SMS before the webinar. But just automating a simple process. Notifications, reminders, notifications, account alerts. These are super important. Why I've been sitting here, I have had an order update on something I ordered 2 days ago online telling me that it's ready for pickup. So this is in place today. If you're a business and you're not looking at this, you need to start. Highly recommend anybody in the auto insurance industry start updating your clients on accident status, when the check's going out. Very, very easy, all completely automated.
And the one thing I'll throw in there too, and this is another huge ROI figure, is the amount of calls that you will save coming inbound. All of these outbound alerts, notifications, reminders, all of that has a huge effect on your inbound calls. And as you guys know, inbound calls has a hard dollar attached to it in a customer service or call center function.
Perfect segue into our next, which is, employee and customer alerts. Something that some of our clients are, just loving right now is, augmenting the current print and mail aspects of communication with new ones. Power outages. When there's a power outage, instead of waiting for 30 to 50% of the people to pick up a telephone and bombard your customer service, hey, send them a quick automated text message. And the important information here is that with the integration between Uluro and MessageMedia, this message can be completely customized where you can pass a phone number and the message in the data file from one system to another in real time and have the text message go out. Very simple, very easy. Now, Obviously, power outage is one. Telling people to unplug their appliances. Snow days, schools. We've even seen companies start to use this for network changes to update employees because they're finding that many employees are changing their email to only bring in emails every 30 minutes. Whereas I'm going to send them a quick message, the network's down, don't bother IT, we're working on it. Or we have a network change going out at 5 p.m. tonight. Let's go. Informing recipients, informing members, informing consumers is where it's about. And building that need is very important. So, Brian, anything that I missed?
No, you nailed it. I think, the important thing to remember here is with Uluro, all you need is a file, right? Whether it's customer facing or if it's internal facing. Most of our customers, I would say, use both. They have an internal or they have an external facing initiative like reminders or payment notifications, things like that. But they always adopt an internal facing use case, whether it's server alerts or road closures or whatever it is, office closures. You can use it for anything.
So now let's take it to the next level. Most of what we looked at is transactional in nature. We did skip over some important things that Uluro does do for online payments and registration, two-factor authentication for healthcare and financial. That's all fully supported, but that is part of the default system if you have SMS turned on. But let's take it to that next level and look at, marketing and promotional. How can I better engage the people that, I'm working with? So Brian, you want to explain this for a few minutes about some of the marketing and promotional aspects of text messaging?
Yep, and I think that most people on the phone, most of the initiatives are going to be transactional. But obviously, we, with our white glove treatment, with our capabilities to help our customers develop policy for both transactional use cases and marketing use cases, will help you out. Again, I mentioned earlier, compliance is an initiative that you have to at least make sure you're checking all the boxes when it comes to marketing and promotional messages. But you can do it. Some great examples of promotional or marketing messages. We're working with a company right now that is dealing with Anheuser-Busch, right? And they're doing beer promos at baseball parks nationwide. So in that example, people are going to be able to sit in sections in ballparks, text the keyword beer to a short code like a 23456 number, and then what is responded is thank you for texting in beer. Pick up your free beer in section, present this in section 121 for your free beer. So that's a great example of a promotional or marketing text message. The opt-in there is the customer sending in the keyword to that short code. That's an opt-in, right? So if you don't have that, if you don't have somebody sending in like text pizza to 12345 for a free personal pizza, that's an opt-in. If you don't have that process set up where the consumer is engaging you first, you just have to make sure that on that registration page or wherever they're at in your web portal or whatever it is, that they have explicitly opted in to receive text messages for that distinct program, promotion, survey, whatever it is that you want to initiate. And that's really that's the main point, is that you want to make sure that those users are engaged and they know what they're engaged for. So that's really it. I mean, some things that you can do. Obviously, MMS is big. Embedded web links that don't look spammy. So you definitely want to, if you have URL shorteners and things like that, and in the messages, you definitely don't want them to look spammy, because the carriers are looking out for that stuff with respect to marketing. They're looking out for surveys and registrations that aren't on the up and up. So that's really the gist with marketing.
Okay, so just had a couple of questions here, Brian. We have about a minute left, and then we want to go into answer something else. But can you just explain how failed phone numbers and no longer in service work, within under 60 seconds for some of the people who have been asking?
Failed numbers. So that's all captured in the reporting, right? So is that what you're asking? Failed numbers, and if it does fail, what are the reasons behind it? The quick quick overview is you guys have full reporting capabilities within Uluro and outside Uluro in our web portal. All of the metadata captured within a message. So source number, time it was sent, number it was sent to, was it delivered, did it fail, why did it fail, or the reason codes why it failed. All of that stuff is captured in our data reporting and sent back within Uluro or outside Uluro, and it's all available to the customers.
Perfect. So what we're going to do here is I wanted to just take it to the next level. So as everybody sees on the screen right now, there is a short code. So we're going to open it up to anybody that doesn't have UDeliver and doesn't have the ability to actually enable text messaging. We're going to throw out the option that we can give you a trial of Uluro SMS with MessageMedia, and if you text our short code setup, you can get 5,000 free messages to start showing your clients, showing your business units, talking about the future. You know, don't be the iceberg floating down the river that, you know, everybody's hiding from. Stand proud, show them where technology is going, and utilize, you know, it to communicate better. So with that,
what was that, Adam? So that was 57682 is the short code. If you text that short code in, 57682. Yeah, just text Uluro to that number, and our team will get you set up with 5,000 free text messages easily.
So with that, I want to thank everybody for staying with us for the last 30 minutes. I put some contact info up, and because today is all about text messaging, you will notice there is only cell phones here. There are no email addresses, no mailing addresses. Today is about utilizing text message, thinking outside the box, and taking the future, you know, with you today. So thank you very much, everybody. Feel free to reach out. I have about 22 questions here to get through. We'll answer it one off. Thanks again. Have an amazing day.
Thanks, everyone.